Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome into the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Wednesday, July 27, 2016. I am Dave Biddle. Very happy to be joined by Steve Helwagen here from Big Ten Media Days in Chicago. Everything wrapped up yesterday, Steve, and we're going to give a quick rundown here. Firstly, there's so many things that we could talk about, especially for the first topic, but, I'm going to go with Michael Jordan. Not 100% being named a starter by Urban Meyer, but, he basically said Michael Jordan is going to be a starter at offensive guard. Now, if this does materialize, Steve, this will be the first time that an Ohio State offensive lineman has started from day one of their career since Orlando Pace in 1994. Let's hope it works out the same way with Mr. Michael Jordan if he does, in fact, start for the Buckeyes.
Yeah, that's very interesting that you bring that up. And I don't know that anybody had really thought that was what the path would be for Michael Jordan. I think people thought he was going to be a good offensive lineman, maybe a 3-year starter, but for him to have the ability to get in there right away and be the starter at one of the guard spots, that's tremendous for him. Obviously, he's got to get through preseason camp right now, which starts a week from Sunday, but again, as of right now, it looks very good for him to be in the lineup to start the season. They'll have great competition, obviously, in camp, but from all accounts, from JT Barrett, Pat Elflein, and everybody else, Michael Jordan, by coming in and enrolling early, going through spring practice, really made a name for himself and has been very impressive.
Let's talk about Mike Weber and the running backs. And how about us? We didn't even know this because we're sitting on opposite sides of the room. We had the first two questions of the Urban Meyer portion of the press conference yesterday, and you asked about the running backs. And, and to get this out there, you mentioned to Urban Meyer, you asked him if Briante Dunn, there's any chance he would return, and Urban Meyer said, no, there's no way Briante Dunn's going to return. Then you asked him about just the rest of the running backs, and he talked about it, and a lot of guys in the mix. But, it looks like Mike Weber will be the starter, but every time he talks about the running backs, he mentions Curtis Samuel. We got to talk to Urban Meyer later in the day yesterday, and he mentioned again that, no matter what happens, Curtis Samuel is going to be a big part of this offense. But, let's assume Mike Weber's a starting running back, Steve, and Curtis Samuel's a starting H-back. Is that how you see it shaking out? And what would your thoughts be if that ends up how it is for the Buckeyes?
Yeah, I think Urban addressed this. For those who aren't aware of the whole setup, he was part of the public press conference in the morning, did 15 minutes at the podium, and took questions from a group of about 300 reporters. He probably answered 10 or 12 questions during that segment. Then the coach comes back in the afternoon, and so did his three captains, Raekwon McMillan, JT Barrett, and Pat Elflein. They all answered questions, kind of a free-for-all in a smaller, less formal setting for about an hour. And it was during that setting he was asked, what is a sweet spot for touches for Curtis Samuel? And he thought around 10. So, and he does believe he will rep at running back at various stages of the game. So what I took it away from is that Curtis Samuel is a very important part of the offense. Probably started H-back, split time there with Dontre Wilson, and also rep at running back and split time there with Michael Weber. To me, they seem to be the top two candidates at that position. I think Antonio Williams is a tough kid. That's what everybody kind of reported today, that he was very impressive in the spring with his toughness. They like him. But for a true freshman to be given that spot or to be asked to carry 20 times a game is probably not feasible. So, and even for Weber, it may not even be feasible. So we'll just have to see how he holds up through the whole wear and tear of preseason camp. But I think it's a great situation and a great luxury. You go back to the 2014 National Championship season, And I don't have Samuel's numbers off the top of my head, but I think he rushed for about 400 yards behind Ezekiel Elliott, averaged 5-6 yards a carry, and was no slouch at that position. So he's also the top returning receiver on the team with like 18 or 20 catches from last year. They got rid of, but Michael Thomas left, obviously. And, so there's a lot of ways he can hurt you, a lot of ways he can help the offense. And I think it is a great thing that they've got Curtis kind of standing there and waiting if something happens with Michael Weber.
Some interesting news yesterday from talking to Urban Meyer, Steve. Let's start with Dylan Thompson, kind of been a mystery man ever since signing with Ohio State in 2014. He had the broken kneecap, hasn't been able to stay healthy, and then even when healthy in practice, sounds like the coaches have not been happy with him. I never knew there were any academic issues with him, but Urban Meyer let us know yesterday that Dylan Thompson is academically ineligible, so he will not be with the team this year. My question now, Steve, is will he ever come back? And in my take, the answer is no. They're already facing a numbers crunch. This is a guy that entering his third year in the program. Next year would be his fourth year, the earliest he could come back. Yes, he would have 2 years of eligibility left, but he had never been a producer. We know how Urban Meyer is about this stuff. So this is a guy who was never producing on the field. Now he's not taking care of his business off the field. Extreme numbers crunch with recruiting. I doubt Dylan Thompson will ever come back. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a tough situation, and man, you didn't expect that kind of news that Dylan had not taken care of whatever his academic responsibilities were. You figured that he'd be in good shape, and that in general they have such great counseling and such great support for the players that this should not happen. So obviously, whether he has been, depressed or whatever the word is for it from not being able to play football because he's been banged up for the first 2 or 3 years, that may have a factor in this. But go back to the spring, and Urban kind of put him on blast in one of the press conferences, saying that it was time for him to be healthy and contribute, on the football team, get out of the training room and get back on the practice field. And he did practice some in the spring, and at times, you thought, well, maybe he's a guy that they can, count on for depth at defensive tackle or whatever it is. But obviously it's not going to work out. And, I would agree with your sentiment that barring a major turnaround, I can't imagine he is going to be with this team in 2017. Here's the long and short of it. And our friend Ari Wasserman from Cleveland.com got loose on a whole line of questions with Urban Meyer, who was very frank and upfront about the numbers situation and how hard it is to manage it in terms of recruiting. He said that they have already had to step away from 5-star players at positions where they're already full. And that's kind of, a tough situation to be in.
He backtracked a little bit on that, though, didn't he? And then he said, well, maybe not 5-star, but some really good guys, right?
Really good guys.
Yeah, so maybe not 5-star.
And he also, as part of that, said that because the numbers are so tight, they are not going to take an at-risk character kid either. That was kind of part and parcel of the same thing. So you may be a great player, but if you're a turd, they're not gonna bend over backwards to clear a spot to put you in a spot. So the ramifications come all the way around the bend. If they take 20 players in this class, and they're up to 16 right now, I almost counted as 17 because I think you got to put Drew Chrisman on that group. Although his accounting, we're not sure how it's all going to fall. But you take 20 guys, that means 15 players who are on the roster that they published yesterday will not be with the team next year, and that's almost an astounding number as of this point. Because, if you guys, Raekwon McMillan is going to go to the NFL. I mean, I think we can all pretty much, write that down in stone. He's not coming back next year if he has a great year. There's probably a couple other guys on the team that could follow suit and do that as well.
Garyon Conley, Tyquan Lewis.
Yeah. So I want to see how that all shakes out. I mean, that's only 3 or 4 spots. Dylan Thompson would open a spot, obviously. And, on and on it goes. You're going to find other guys. So people will get hurt as well and probably have their career curtailed. But the Thompson news came out of left field. I mean, he's been banged up, and you just wonder if not being able to play served a factor in him not holding up his end with the academics.
I even think there's a lot of guys who are fourth-year juniors right now or even third-year sophomores won't be back next year. Not that these guys that I'm going to name are definitely not going to be back, but guys like Cam Burrows, Evan Lyle, Kyle Trout. We talked about Dylan Thompson, Stephen Collier. Those guys, you add that with the guys that are going to leave for the NFL, which is going to be at, only probably 3 or 4, which for Ohio State standards is like nothing. But, guys transferring, guys that maybe get hurt, whatever reason, I think Urban will find a way to sign 20 or 21 in this class. You hit on Drew Chrisman, Steve. Let's talk about the punter. Let's clear some things up. Now, I asked Urban about this, and you even suggested this would be a good question to ask, and I appreciate that because I was able to ask this question. And he says Drew Chrisman will pay his own way. Urban Meyer says Drew Chrisman will pay his own way for his first semester at Ohio State. And I've heard people incorrectly say, okay, that means he's gray shirting. He's not gray shirting because he's going to be on the team. He's just basically going to be a temporary walk-on. He's going to be on scholarship. He's probably going to redshirt this year. Hopefully Cameron Johnson stays healthy, and Chrisman will be the backup or third stringer or whatever it might be, and he won't be needed. And then he'll have 4 years remaining. He'll be on scholarship. Urban Meyer did clear that up, that Chrisman will be paying his own way for his first semester, but will then be on scholarship after that. So there you see that. Now they have, when you have guys like Dylan Thompson leaving, Briante Dunn kicked off the team, or Dylan Thompson ineligible. I should say that before he is completely out the door. Let's make that clear. So Dylan Thompson ineligible, Briante Dunn kicked off the team, Drew Chrisman paying his own way. There's suddenly some scholarship space here, Steve. Unfortunately, Donovan Munger, for health reasons in the spring, didn't come back.
Grant Schmidt.
Yeah, there's this. Grant Schmidt transferring. So they have 2 spots open. Well, guess what? Joe Berger and Craig Feta, those linebackers, Buckeye Cribbs, they will be put on scholarship. Urban Meyer told Bucknuts yesterday that they will be on scholarship. Now, people might be wondering, well, weren't they on scholarship in the spring? Yes, they were put on scholarship in the spring. At the time, it was thought to be kind of a nice move, but, they probably wouldn't have room to put them on scholarship in the fall. But that's not the case. We asked Urban about it yesterday, Steve, and both Joe Berger and Craig Feta will be on scholarship to close their careers. What a cool story.
Yeah, that's great. As I went back and looked when they first got the scholarship back in the spring, I went back and looked at some games and noticed that I want to say Feta in particular was on the kickoff team and maybe the punt team, and Berger was in on some of that as well. He may have been hurt for some of it. I'm not sure exactly what the whole story was, but Meyer said that as of today, both of them will be on the field for the team this fall. Both of them are currently starters on the punt team, and I would also imagine one or both will be on the kickoff team as well, if not the kick return team as up backs or whatever, to protect the returners. So I think that is a good situation to reward walk-ons. Ohio State has a vast history of walk-ons making an impact, on the team. Some of them growing into starting positions and earning scholarships and everything else. And I think you must have walk-on players in this day and age to fill out your practice roster, and that's a great incentive. That if you keep your nose clean and can basically earn your way, that you will get a scholarship eventually.
I will say all the player reps that are here in Chicago were impressive the last 2 days. You look at all 14 teams, you're talking about each team getting to pick 3 guys. All of these young men are impressive. I could not be more impressed with the 3 young men from Ohio State. JT Barrett, Pat Elflein, and Raekwon McMillan. Excellent players, yes. Fantastic young men, maybe even better. They represent Ohio State so well, and Ohio State is the gold standard in the Big Ten. So you have every media person wanting to talk, obviously to Urban Meyer, but also the players. The way they handle themselves, the things that they say, they're real without saying too much.
Braggadocious.
Exactly. It's exactly how you'd want it. They're not fake, but they don't say too much. They keep it real as much as you can keep it real in these settings. I just could not be more impressed with those 3 guys. What great leaders. They've already been named captains. I will say one thing that I took away from talking to both JT Barrett, all of them really, JT Barrett, Raekwon McMillan, and Pat Elflein. You and I have talked about this, Steve, is a lot of talk about Mike Weber, and all 3 of these guys are high on Mike Weber. But I tell you what, they all say he needs to earn his keep, though. He needs to – it was interesting how Raekwon McMillan put it. He was very honest. He said, everybody's talking about Mike Weber a lot, but he hasn't even made it through a full camp yet, which at first I thought was kind of like an unfair statement because this is a kid in Mike Weber that was looking really good in camp last year before he had a torn meniscus. It wasn't like he had like a sore hangnail or something and held himself out for 2 weeks. I mean, he needed surgery, minor surgery on his knee. But, just your thoughts on these guys, the way they handled themselves. And then about Mike Weber, the way all of these guys are like, yeah, we like him, but hey, he's a redshirt freshman who needs to earn his keep.
Yeah. Very telling to me. I posted a story there last night with Pat Elflein. You can even see the video of what he had to say. He talked for several minutes about his friendship with Michael Weber. And these guys are 3 years apart in school. Elflein is a senior, and Weber is a redshirt freshman. And yet, he said that Mickey Marotti paired him up with Michael Weber to work with him and show him the proper work ethic that's needed in the summer workouts, in the weight room, whatever it is that they were doing. And he has noticed a different attitude from Mike Weber. Said you can tell from the photos that Mike's posted on Twitter that his body has changed. And he's also taking care of himself with good diet, nutrition, work habits, attitude. And he said that Mike was like a lot of kids, 4 or 5-star guys coming out of high school, that John Cooper had a phrase for it. That you have to decommit them at some point, de-recruit them is what it is called. Basically the idea of, okay, you blew so much smoke up these guys' butts for a year and a half trying to get them to come in here that they really do think that they've already earned, all their stripes when they show up, and then they get the rude awakening that it's not that easy at this level. We all wear caps and sleeves here. And, it's for a guy like Michael Weber, and Urban Meyer had it put it pretty well. I spent a lot of time with Mike. He's a very important guy on this team, and Elflein said that he told him that millions of people in Buckeye Nation are counting on you to make plays.
No pressure.
No pressure. And he said that Weber looked at him and said, man, I didn't even think of it like that. That is a lot of pressure.
Way to go, Elflein. Why'd you tell him that?
Yeah, to which Elflein said, no, you've got it, dude. You've got it. You can do it. And I'll take care of you. We'll block for you. You just run the football. So that's where it's at.
JT Barrett was downright jovial. You had Dennis Dodd from CBSSports.com. CBS Sports does a great job, by the way.
We love CBS Sports.
Not biased in the least. But
of all the national websites, they do the best. Their coverage of college football on television is the best. Their coverage of golf is the best. Their coverage of the NFL.
Okay, I was being a little facetious, but they do a great job. But
back when they had baseball, that Reds 1990 World Series, that's the best televised World Series I've ever seen.
With Jack Buck.
With Jack Buck and Tim McCarver in 1990. CBS, just I can't say enough. All right.
We got off on a tangent there a little bit. CBS does do a good job, but we don't want to take it too far. But we had a chance to chat with JT Barrett, and he was so jovial. And Dennis Dodd from CBS Sports, and I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking JT is such a low talker, and if you're in the media and the microphone's not really working that JT's talking into, it's very frustrating. If you're a Seinfeld fan out there, low talker, they kind of talk under their breath a little bit. You can't really understand what they're saying very much. And that's kind of annoying, right? If I did that for the entire show, you guys probably wouldn't like that too much. And that's kind of what JT's like. And, when he's talking to the media, very laid back guy. That's why he's, just known as one of the most chill guys on the whole team. Well, Dennis Dodd said, JT, we have to kind of lean in to hear you. You're kind of a low talker. I assume you're more boisterous than this in the huddle. And JT looked at him and said, we don't huddle, though, and kind of made a little motion toward him, and everybody laughed. And it just kind of encapsulates how JT Barrett is. He is so focused, but at the same time, he is able to have fun and just he seems like he is primed and ready for a Heisman Trophy run this year. And as you mentioned, he's a guy that admits that last year he wasn't really who he meant to be, who he wanted to be. He just was always kind of looking over his shoulder, the whole Cardale Jones thing, and he was also coming off the injury. Now it's his team again. He's healthy. He's ready to roll, Steve.
I agree. He had a look in his eye like he means business, serious as can be, but also playful at times. And a tremendous leader for this team. Admitted last year he just wasn't himself. It wasn't his team. He didn't feel like he had ownership as he did the year before. and in his estimation and Urban Meyer's estimation, didn't play well in preseason camp. I even asked him a question. I forget which game it was. I don't know if they played Northern Illinois or Miami. I don't know. One of the
Northern Illinois last year.
Illinois, he threw 2 picks, and then wasn't seen again for several weeks after that until Cardale had that blow up in Indiana where he couldn't put the ball in the end zone. And then I suggested to Urban Meyer, just off the cuff, well, have you thought about using J.T. Barrett as your red zone quarterback? And the whole season turned on a dime at that point. But I digress.
Thank you, Coach Helwagen.
I don't want to say I saved the season, but
he even thanked you for it.
Yeah, later on. Yeah.
Yes.
So, at any rate, I think JT is back to where he was in 2014 down at the end of the season. He is ready to roll, ready to lead this team to wherever the destiny will take it. And, if it's 12-0, Big Ten champions or whatever it is, I think whatever happens, it's not – if something doesn't happen, it's not going to be because of JT Barrett.
Great stuff out of Coach Steve Helwagen. I am Dave Biddle. We better get to the airport so we can get back to Columbus, Ohio. We love it here in Chicago for Big Ten Media Days, but we love Columbus, Ohio even more.
Chicago. Thank
you to all the listeners for tuning in to the show. Really appreciate it. Hope everyone has a great day. Let's hear some Buckeye swag, best damn band in the land.